And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what? China. All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
They say, go see the African History Museum. Why do they start when the boats came? Why don't they start with the drums?
When we was kings.
Oh, they don't want it, but we are kings. But the 400 years doesn't have to deal with slavery. It has to deal with the Bible. It has to deal with us being disobedient to God. Us as 12 tribes of Judah, as a member of the Hebrew people, we are still inside of our genocide. 50% of all black deaths a year is abortion.
I'm so glad you're here because you can bring great clarity. Can you tell us a little bit about the Sephardic Jews and how they were scattered because they went west?
I sure can.
Because the reason why I want to is because a lot of them, and a lot of people don't know this, are in the Caribbean.
They are.
In the islands.
And you're one of them. I know that.
I'm one of them.
I know that.
Because, you know, a lot of folk don't know that those roots are there. One of the first batches of slaves that came to Jamaica, they were the Sephardic Jews. It's documented.
And they're all over the Caribbean,
over the Caribbean,
South America, Central America, and even the South Central United States.
Wow.
And DNA testing is a factor in all this now.
Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you.
Want to say peace and blessings to everyone. Want to say Shalom Block, Mash Paka. If you can hear me, type 1. If you can hear my audio is good, type 1. If not, I will have to check my audio. So I want to say peace and blessings to everyone again. Hope all is well with you guys. Hope you guys is having a great week. I know we're in the middle of the week right now, so I know it may be a long week for some. And today, you know, I had to, go in and do all kinds of meetings today. I've been teleworking rather for the past 6-7 weeks, and I had to do all kinds of meetings upon meetings. I think today was just one of those days that we were just having meetings just to schedule more meetings. But anyway, I hope and pray all is well with you guys. And we have a great topic that we're going to cover tonight. And tonight we're going to deal with the ritual of Valentine's, right? The ritual of Valentine's. We're going to deal with the fables, right? And I'm going to deal with the word lovesick, right? Lovesick. I mean, to give proper clarity and give you an example of what lovesick is, right? Because lovesick, and I'm going to show you the source, the origins of it. And I'm going to paint a picture that if we're not careful, we can become so obsessed with things or certain things to the point that we can become lovesick. And I'm going to give you an example of that within the scriptures. And we're, like I said, we're going to deal with a lot with the ritual of Valentine's. And so if you have any questions, feel free to post them. But I'm going to start just mapping out the different videos, the different teachings I'm going to do over the next few months, just so that way you guys have enough time to be able to, work it around your schedule. So the hot topic that I want to deal with this week, I got to do a post. I got to do a discussion on the Whoopi Goldberg situation. Some of you guys probably familiar with the Whoopi Goldberg situation. She pointed out that the Holocaust was whites fighting whites, right? She made it clear that it wasn't a race issue, but Whoopi got suspended. So I encourage you guys watch the video, and we're going to talk about that. Even though I have given court documents, right, to prove, contrary, the question we have to ask, especially with all the information that's being revealed, why, or when did the Jewish community become a race? When? So we're going to answer that question. Some of you guys already know what I'm going to do, but sometimes it's just good to rehearse certain things in the ear, like the Most High told Moses to do with Joshua. But anyway, enough of that. Let's go ahead and get into the lesson. Let me go ahead and edit my banner here. All right, let's see here. Let's edit the banner so that way for those that want to contact me offline, you'll have my information on the screen here. Let me see here. All right, so we'll deal with this. The rituals of Valentine's. All right, may even just classify this as fable. Matter of fact, I'm just going to put fable instead of playbook, because this is more or less dealing with fables. All right, because Valentine's Day is a fable, and I'm going to show you why. It's a lot, a fable in paganism. All right, so let's go ahead and get this going. Let's get this ticker started, and let me go ahead and maximize the screen here. So, family, we are going to deal with the ritual of Valentine's. The ritual of Valentine's. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. I want to start off with the 81st book of Psalms, chapter 8. 81st book of Psalms, beginning at verse 8 through 12. And this is what it says. Hear, O my people, and I will testify unto thee, O Israel, if thou wilt hearken, Shammai, unto me. Now make a note of that word, hearken, right? Shammai, which means listen with intelligence. Listen unto me. There shall no strange Zar, God, Al or Allah, be in thee, neither shalt thou worship Shathka or Shathaka, any strange Nakar deities, Allah. I don't like to use the term God because that's a whole nother discussion. But let me read it again. Hear, O my people, and I will testify unto thee, O Israel, if thou hearken, Shammai, listen with intelligence. There shall no strange deities be in thee, neither shalt thou worship any strange deities. I am Yahweh Elohim, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt. Open thy mouth, pie, right? Open thy mouth, pie. Open thy mouth, pie. And this Hebrew letter also means mouth, mind, right? Pa. The Hebrew letter means also mouth. It also means mind, right? So when Paul said, let this mind be in you that is in the Messiah, what he is saying, let the words that come out of your mouth be in alignment with the words that will come out of the Messiah's mouth, that have come out of the Messiah's mouth. That's what it's saying here, right? So open thy mouth wide and I will fill it. But my people would not hearken to my voice, and Israel would none of me. So the Most High is saying, all you have to do is ask. But we had to ask with the right motives. We had to be in the right spirit. Right? Hearken, again, Shammai. Listen with intelligence. That's discernment. See, that's the gift the Most High gave Adam at the very beginning, discernment. And family, right now, we are living in the day and time that discernment is important. It is imperative. It is very important. And so this is why we have to stay focused. This is why we have to listen with intelligence, not get caught up in the chit chatter, not, get into this herd mentality and all of that. Stay clear of the foolishness. But it says, but my people would not hearken. The Most High said, look, open thy mouth wide, Rakab, and I will fill it. But my people would not hearken, would not listen with intelligence to my voice. Quawal or qual, some will pronounce it call. And Israel would none of me. So I gave them up unto their own hearts. Lab or labab, right? Their own hearts lust, and they walked in their own counsel. And this is what we see happening today. So many are walking in their own counsel. Own counsel. When was the last time you seen anyone or many of these guys that, for example, have YouTube channels? When is the last time you seen them in an actual assembly? When was the last time you seen them in an actual assembly? When was the last time you seen a lot of people that are speaking against our community? When was the last time you even heard or seen them inside an assembly doing the true work of the Most High? So because of Israel's lust, because of their desires, because they wanted what they wanted, the Most High said, you know what? I am going to give you 100% you uncut. He turned them over to the lust of their heart. Family, how many of you can really handle 100% you uncut? How many of you guys can handle you uncut? That's what it means to be in a reprobate mind, is that the Most High said, you want what you want so bad. You want it to be all about you so bad. So I am going to turn you over to you. 100% you uncut. Family, I couldn't handle 100% me uncut. That's why I had to get away from those streets. That's why I had to change my life. That's why I had to get away from that lifestyle, because me uncut back in the day wasn't good. And I think all of us know, if we think back where we were, 100% you uncut, you couldn't handle it. So the Most High gave them up unto their own heart, their own heart's lust, and they walked in their own counsel. So they began to do what was right in their own eyes. Now I want to go to Jeremiah chapter 10, verse 1 through 5. I'm not going to get into it all about the tree, but I want to just reiterate something, a point here. I like how this chapter reads, or at least these passages read in the Tanakh. So we're going to come out of the Tanakh, right? Jeremiah chapter 10, starting at verse 1. Hear the word which Yahweh has spoken unto you, O house of Israel. Thus said Yahweh, do not learn to go the way of the nations, and do not be dismayed by portents in the sky. Let the nations be dismayed by them. Verse 3, for the laws of the nations are delusions. Let me say that again. For the laws of the nations are delusions. Let me say it one more time. For the laws of the nations are delusions. For it is the work of a craftsman's hands. He cuts down a tree in the forest with an axe. He adorns it with silver and gold. He fastens it with nails and hammer so that it does not totter. So again, the laws of the nations are delusions. So make a note of that. The laws of the nations are delusions. So let's also go to a stern warning by the Apostle Paul. Unfortunately, too bad the church per se really don't pay attention or take heed to the warnings that Apostle Paul has given to the children of Israel, also the converts, but listen to the stern warning that Apostle Paul has given. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1 through 5. It says this, I charge thee therefore before Yahweh and Adonai Yahweh Shai Hamashiach. In the English, it would simply be, and the Lord Jesus Christ, right? That's Adonai or Adonai, Yahweh Shai Hamashiach. That is the ancient Hebrew for the Messiah's name. But it says, who shall judge the quick and the dead at his appearing and his kingdom. Preach the word. Be instant in season, out of season. In other words, what that means is be consistent. That's what the Hebrew word Ammon means. It means consistent. Doesn't just mean trust, because it transliterates over to trust. It transliterates over to faith. But it means permanent. Paul is encouraging, especially when we deal with a minister, to do what? Be consistent. There's so many that are referring to themselves as ministers of the Most High, ministers of the Messiah, ministers of the Word, but they don't have no Holy Spirit. You could tell by their work. Because guess what? They are in and out, right? They in and out. They're all over the place. Not in and out of the seasons being consistent. They in and out, right? Going in and out of their mind. Their minds are clouded. Their behaviors are all over the place. So, but Paul said, preach the word, dabar. Be instant in season, out of season. Reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. For the time will come that they will not endure sound doctrine. The biggest joke is, when from a Christian perspective, right? So many Christians are so blinded to thinking that everyone else is not enduring sound doctrine when it's actually themselves. Look at a lot of the foolishness that we see that's taking place today, even with what we're going to deal with Valentine's Day. So Paul was already addressing this back then because people began to what? Sway away. For the time will come, and he's saying this to Timothy. He's saying this to the leadership. For the time will come, ministers, the time will come that they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lusts shall they heap to themselves teachers. Aren't we seeing that right now? In the church, I used to use the term church hoppers, right? In this truth, you have people jumping from YouTube channel to YouTube channel, YouTube channel to YouTube channel, all about gossip, right? This is actually, let me see, do I have it up here? I think I took down the clip. because I was going to show you, kind of give you a visual of what we see, how so many are behaving when it comes to chasing the latest and greatest in terms of itching ear doctrine, right? Itching ear, chasing, gossiping. And the Most High did not call us to be chasing, even when we start dealing with miracles, right? The Most High never told us to chase miracles. It says signs and wonders is supposed to what? Follow. He didn't tell us to go search and chase after signs. Signs and wonders, they're supposed to follow those that what? Believe. But unfortunately, many of us think differently. Many of us think that we're supposed to chase, like that song, Chasing After You. Now, we're supposed to what? Chase or seek the Most High through his Son. And of course, when we got to have the Holy Spirit. See, when we start really understanding, I don't have the link here. I was looking for the clip I was going to show to give you an example of. Let me see. Do I have it? Nope. I thought I had it. Yeah. Oh, well, it is what it is. Oh, yeah, I think I do have it. Let's see if I can upload it. If I can upload it, I'll give this example of itching ear, right? The itching ear, people running from, you're trying to see who's fighting who's saying what against the next person, all that other stuff, man. I could care less about all of that. But let me upload this. So while that's uploading, again, it says here, for the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine. I remember when I was a young minister, right? And I remember one of the elders came to me and asked me, what do I think about the Da Vinci Code? And I said, I don't think nothing about the Da Vinci Code. Why are you thinking about the Da Vinci Code? I mean, he had doubts. Y'all remember the movie Da Vinci Code. He started getting caught up in all of that. And a lot of people got caught up in that. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine. And we see that playing out before our eyes. I did a lesson about 12 years ago. When you're a pastor, not just a pastor, when you're a minister and you're a teacher, you remember your messages, right? So I did a message actually 13 years ago because we was at our old location. And I did a lesson titled Supermarket Church. Family, do you know that there's a church pretty much for anything that you don't want to let go? If you want to have service once a month, there's churches out there that only gather once a month. If you want to have church, go to a church that gather 3 times a month, there's churches out there. If you want to go to a New Testament only church, there's churches out there. If you want to go to an atheist church, and I know that sounds like an oxymoron, but there are atheist churches out there. They playing what gospel music per se. They playing worship music. The question is, who are they worshiping? If they don't believe in the Most High, who are they worshiping? If they don't believe in the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, who are they worshiping? Right? So again, for the time will come that they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust, they heap. In other words, heap. They stack up, they pile up, right? Hoard to themselves teachers. So just like in the church hoppers, and there's a church for everything that you don't want to let go. Guess what? It's the same thing, same way outside of the church, because we have so many of our brothers and sisters that are, don't want to let go of strongholds, certain strongholds that they had while they were in the church. Now coming out of the church, many of them are looking at certain laws, statutes, and commandments to justify their lustful spirit, right? We're still seeing the same behaviors, right? So heaping to themselves, in other words, choosing, stacking up teachers, right? That's going to what? Keep them where they are. That's not going to challenge them to what? Change. Having itching ears. Always what? Looking for the latest and greatest. always looking for the latest and greatest, no stability, right? Like I said, chasing, just like what we see here. This is what a lot of our brothers and sisters, whether they are in the church or outside the church, this is what many of our brothers and sisters are doing right now.
Good. Adaptation, improvisation. But your weakness is not your technique.
More hits fighting Neo.
See, at the end of the video, the clip I shared, how people are chasing and running behind, going from platform to platform with itching ears, gossiping, wanting to hear gossip. Right? A lot of the channels are straight gossip. And I'm not referring to Tasha K and those guys. I'm referring to those that claim that they are teaching the word. They're becoming gossip channels. They have nothing to do with the word. There's no edification in any of it. So they will not, like Paul said here, for the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but after their own lust, they will heap unto themselves teachers having itching ears, and they shall turn away their ears from the truth and shall be turned unto fables. But watch thou in all things. This is what he's saying. In spite of all of this, but watch thou in all things, endure afflictions. Family, we're going to have to endure a lot of these attacks that's coming our way. Don't let that take you off of what the Most High has called you to do. Do the work of an evangelist. In other words, continue to spread the word. It didn't say be a colonizer, because Christianity has taught their version of evangelism is actually colonization. They didn't, the scriptures didn't teach us to go and stand in front of somebody else's place of worship that don't believe what we believe, and we standing in front of their place of worship telling them they're condemning them. Show me one temple of Aphrodite that the Messiah stood in front of. Show me the temple that Apostle Paul stood in front of, because when you study the Corinthians, right, they had Aphrodite's temple was right there, right? The priests, right, the prostitutes had more influence of that area than what the assembly of the Most High had in that area. When politicians and the officials come in, they went to Aphrodite's temple, right? We'll deal with Aphrodite's temple, because when you understand that, you had men there that was cross-dressers. Just what you see today in the church. Many of them were promoting this homosexual agenda in the church. But anyway, but watch thou in all things, endure afflictions, do the work of an evangelist, spread this word, but not from a colonization mindset. Make full proof of thy ministry. And he's given the key to doing that. So let's highlight a key quote here from what we read, right? It says, and shall be turned unto fables. This is key right here, family. It said, shall be turned unto fables. All right, let's say it one more time, right? And shall be turned unto fables. The Greek definition of fables, right? Muthos, right? It says this: a tale, an example, fiction, myth, invention, right? Inside the church, there's a lot of muthos going on in there. There's a lot of tales that are being shared in there. There's a lot of fables. There's a lot of fiction. There's a lot of inventions that has nothing to do with the word that is going on inside the church right now, in the Catholic Church, in Christianity right now. That's what's going on inside the church right now. And truth be told, there's a lot of inventions, there's a lot of tales, that is a lot of fiction that is also going on in this truth. Starting with Adam The story about Adam, you know, the mysticism that's out here that's saying that Adam had his first wife was Lilith. Lilith, the actual owl that's mentioned in Isaiah, I believe, chapter 35 or 36. Lilith, the owl, right? If you read the Midrash, the Jewish Midrash, right? Even in there, they make it clear that that story is a fable. It's a tale, right? My mother practices Judaism, right? So, as far as the Midrash, the Talmud, and you know the Mishnah and all of that, man, I understand the Mishnah, right? I actually, you know, my mother gave me a gift as far as the Midrash as a gift. That's, you know, that's sitting right over here inside my office on my shelf, right? That's why I know how to go in and extract things to expose exactly what's there. Man, it's so much craziness that's within there. But guess what? You will learn in the Midrash, right? Right? Because I also have a series called the Midrash Says. And they make it clear that the story of Lilith with Adam is a myth. But anyway, it's a fable. So there's a lot of fables going on, right? Let me give you an example of a fable, because when we think of fables, we just think of like Little Red Riding Hood, right? We think of things along that line. But guess what? There's other fables. They disguise it as mysticism. Right? Here's an example right here. Here's a fable right here, and we'll get right back into it. You guys already remember this video, but let me share with you a fable.
This is how the Zohar interprets the opening words of Genesis. The Hebrew is Bereshit bara Elohim, which we usually translate, in the beginning, God created. But the Zohar insists on reading the words in the precise order in which they appear in Hebrew. Bereshit, in the beginning, bara, it created, Elohim, God. In the beginning, it created God. The Zohar takes that to mean, in the beginning, infinity created God. Now, what could that possibly mean? God is now the object of the verse, not the subject, which sounds impossible or heretical, but the Zohar, I think, is saying that infinity is the true reality of God. Anything else that we call God is puny compared to that. That's our own imagination or our own estimate of what God could be.
And so again, that's a myth. See, that's fiction. That's mythos. That's a tale. That's an invention. See, we have to get out of Little Red Riding Hood and start really understanding what fiction is. This is what Apostle Paul, some of the things that Apostle Paul is warning. Don't get caught up in this fictional stuff. And especially when you start thinking about the community. There's, you know, when you start dealing with the what I want to say, Greek mythology, Roman mythology, because they're interchangeable. When you start dealing with different mythologies of different communities, they have a lot of what? Fables and endless genealogies, you know, strange genealogies that Paul warned against. He wasn't talking about getting caught up about your identity. He was dealing with the culture of these different belief systems. Right? So let's continue on. A fable, mythos, is an invented story, a falsehood. Even as Paul wrote these warnings, some false teachings had already seeped into the assembly. So this leads me to our topic for tonight, the origin of the fable of Valentine's Day. Right? You guys remember this note right here. How many of you guys remember this note? If y'all remember this, if you're from the old school like I am, how many of you guys remember this right here? Just type 1. Right? If y'all remember this, type 1. If you're not familiar with what this is, type 2. All right. So with that being said, come on, you guys know, y'all know what this means right here. Back in the day, this was the love note right here. I like you. Do you like me? Yes or no? Right? I remember my freshman year of high school. Right? I had a friend, his nickname was Milk, right? Because no lie, he smelled like sour milk. So everybody called him Milk. And how we became friends is because I used to protect him. I used to protect him. You know, when we first met in middle school, you know, people were trying to bully him, and I wouldn't let anyone bully him. And from that point on, you know, he stuck to my right side basically. So wherever I went, he went. When I went to high school, you know, he followed me right up over there, right? And so I remember, I ain't gonna mention the girl's name, but you know, she was one of those girls in our school, high school. She was, you know, she was one of the very few that looked like they didn't belong in high school. You know, nowadays you got the girls looking like grown women in terms of with the hairstyles and the clothing and all of that. Back then, no, you had high school girls with with ponytails and all that other stuff. You had high school girls looking like they should look at that time, you know, not what we see today, where as though the girls are looking like beyond their age. It was age appropriate at that time, you know. So some were still wearing jellies and all of that stuff, right? But anyway, I remember we had a school store, and it was one of the most popular girls in the school. Me and her was really cool, but one particular day, because of how she was real, you know, was asking me if I needed anything, and you know, bringing me my lunch, and you know, we were just really cool. And so Milk told me, he's like, man, I think she like you. Now I think you should, you know, see if she want to be your girl, because y'all, you know, y'all already, you know, I mean, everybody's trying to figure out y'all really dating. And I'm like, you know, and at that time I was really short, guys. I was like I was the shortest freshman, if not one of the shortest freshmen, right? But anyway, so I went to the school store, got a pack of Starburst, wrote this just like this: I like you, do you like me? Right? And so when we went in homeroom, right, and she sat right next to me, right? So we was in homeroom, right? And you guys know what I'm talking about, Jay High Style. During that time, you had Pumas, you had Adidas, you had the real deal Jordans, not the stuff you see today. You had all of that. You had Spot Built, you know, you had what's some of the other ones? I can't remember all of them, but it was quite a few different sneaker brands that was really good. But anyway, so we sitting in homeroom, and so what I did was I slid her the note with a pack of Starburst, and it said, I like you. Do you like me? Yes or no? And man, guess what she said? No, Sister Carol, I wasn't doing the members only jacket. You know what I mean? You know, we was laughing at those things, man. But anyway, we was all about the goose down bombers, you know, because where I live at, you know, it was too cold for that. Yeah, that's right. New Balance, right? That was one of the ones, New Balance. And I think it was I start with Asics. Yeah, Asics was another one. But anyway, man, you know what happened? I slid her the little note right here with a pack of Starburst, and she read it out in front of the entire class. She said, do I like you? I like you. Something like, no, she was like, I like you. Do you like me? Man, she put in there, she said, not no. And she wrote H no in there in front of homeroom. And everybody was cracking up. And I had to deal with that the whole day, from that class to, you know, everyone clowning me and everything. And then got home, and, you know, I love my grandmother, man. Most High bless my grandmother, man, as she rests, you know. But anyway, got home, and my grandmother saw something was wrong with me. And she asked me what was wrong. I'm telling my grandmother, no, I'm cool, Mom. I'm saying everything is all right. And she's like, come on, tell me. I said, Mom, I know you're not going to listen to me. But she's like, tell me what happened? What she do to you? And when she said that, I was like, okay, all right. So I told my grandmother what happened. And man, guess what my grandmother's solution was? Her solution to this situation was, go sit on the toilet. That was her solution to everything. If I brought some of my relatives on this right now and ask them in front of you, what is Mun's, that's we call it the Mun, what's Mun's solution to everything? And they would say, sit on the toilet. She made my cousin sit on the toilet with a broke arm and another with a broken leg. So I'm like, Mom, what is sitting on the toilet going to do for me? She says, so that way you could think about just how silly you sound. And I never forget these words. She said, for every bum, there's a bag lady. For every president, there's a first lady. The opportunity to have to be in a relationship, that's going to always be there. Take advantage of the opportunity with your education. And guess what? I made it a point not to have a girlfriend all through high school because of that word of wisdom. So now getting back to this, right? This love note here, you guys remember this, some of you guys, right? But what's the origins of it? Where did it come from? Well, I'm going to share with you the origins of that billet. St. Valentine. The original Valentine's Day in the Ides of February was Rome's Lupercalia, a festival of sexual license. Young men chose partners for erotic games by drawing billets, right? Those little love notes, small papers with women names on them. And so Christians denounced these prototypical Valentines as heathens, lewd customs. Churchmen tried to substitute saint names. So notice the pattern here. We still seeing it right now. So the church decided that they want to do something about it. Instead of trying to speak against it, they tried to substitute the celebration by trying to add saints' names. And now understand, when we say saints' names, this is not dealing with the holy people of Israel. This is dealing with those that they deem to be what they call it, achieved sainthood. The people that achieved sainthood, not Israel. So when you see saints, this is not dealing with Israel. This is dealing with those that they deem to be saints. And to become a saint or be called into sainthood per se, you have to die. But part of that, your testimony is you would have had to at least perform one miracle, confirmed miracle, right, by them, and they determine whether or not you are a saint after you die. That's completely a fable, right? That's a fable. That's not in the scriptures, because actually wherever you see saints, really you'll see the word quadash, which means holy. When the prophecy in Revelation says that the woman drunk off the what? Blood. She's blood drunk off the blood of who? It's not saints, actually holy people. When you see saints in what is called the law and the prophets, it's referring to the holy people of Israel. It's not what is made out today. That's a construct created by the church. So the churchmen try to substitute these saints, like Saint Nicholas, his name, in short sermons on the billets. But the people soon reverted to the old love notes. February was sacred to Juno, Februata. In other words, the goddess of the fever, which you get the word febris, of love. The church replaced her with a mythical martyr named Saint Valentine, who was endowed with several contradictory biographies. One of them made him a handsome Roman youth. So let's give some clarity on here, the history of this fable of Valentine's Day. So this is coming from history.com, just a little additional information. Although the truth behind the Valentine legend is murky, the stories all emphasize his appeal with a sympathetic, heroic, and most importantly, romantic figure. By the Middle Ages, perhaps thanks to his reputation, Valentine would become one of the most popular saints in England and France. You know, so many stories out there. One of the ones, especially when I used to be, believe it or not, I used to be into a lot of the conscious community books that was coming out. You know, I had all kinds of books like Message to the Black Man and all those different things, you know, books that would normally be in the back of the flea market. Now you see that stuff from going from the back of the flea market to being on social media. But I was very astute. I understood the origins of holidays and the origins of like Valentine's Day, these fables, right? And my wife would tell you, and anyone from back in the day would tell you, I didn't get caught up in Valentine's Day. I told them straight up, no, I don't celebrate Valentine's Day. I give you gifts on other days, but not Valentine's Day. And I explained to him what it meant. And initially, my wife thought I was just running game back in the day until she saw that, hey, I was serious about it, even though I was in Christianity. But guess what? I didn't get into all of that stuff. So although the truth behind the Valentine legends is murky, the stories all emphasize his appeal as a sympathetic, heroic, and most importantly, romantic figure. By the Middle Ages, perhaps thanks to his reputation, Valentine would become one of the most popular saints in England and France. So it's interesting, family, that most of the holidays has an extreme story about a Catholic saint. Have you guys noticed that? If you notice that, type 1. If you notice that, so many of these pagan holidays that's based off of all kinds of myths and fables, right? Inventions, has a Catholic saint behind it. If you agree with that, type 1. And if you even want to name some of the saints, feel free to do so. All right. So again, interesting how most of the holidays have an extreme story of a Catholic saint, starting with Christmas, St. Nicholas, St. Patrick's Day, right? Of course, you have St. Patrick's, and we're going to deal with St. Patrick's, the origins of St. Patrick's, the lies about St. Patrick's, right? And of course, Saint what? Valentine, right? So these are all fables. So one of them made him a handsome Roman youth, executed at the very moment when his sweetheart received his billet of love. Saint Valentine became a patron of lovers perforce because the festival remained dedicated to the lovers despite all official efforts to change it. Even in its Christianized form, the Valentinian festival involved secret sex worship called a rite of spiritual marriage with angels in a nuptial chamber. Let me say that again. See, some of the perversions that you see inside the church, a lot of our ancestors were subjected to, especially if you go into I can't think of the castle, so to speak, where our ancestors were stored, were brought to, is where the point of, I think it's El Mino, right? The point of no return. They had our ancestors in dungeons, basically, at the base of this place, while they had church above them. But guess what they were doing? Those Caucasians will go down and take women in secret passages to get there and take them and have their way with them. Have all kinds of secret sex worship called a rite of spiritual marriage with angels in a nuptial chamber. There was all kinds of chambers. Many of our ancestors went on those slave ships pregnant by these monsters. And yet many are holding on to that belief system. So even in its Christianized form, the Valentinian festival involved secret sex worship called a rite of spiritual marriage with angels in a nuptial chamber. And this is also ties to pedophilia. That's a whole nother discussion dealing with spiritual rites with angels. Ordinary humans being engaged before witnesses in an act of sexual intercourse described as the marriage of Sophia and the Redeemer. A spoken formula said, in part, let the seed of light, descend into the bridal chamber. Receive the bridegroom. Open thine arms to embrace him. Behold, grace has descended upon thee. And so during the Middle Ages, Saint Valentine was much invoked and love charms and potions. Since he was sketchily Christianized, right? See, that's the MO with the Christian church, the Roman Catholics. Instead of tearing down the temples, all they did was took over those temples, those Roman temples, and put what biblical names on some of those images. Instead of Hercules, they put, let's just say, Paul, or Barnabas. They that's what they began to do. For Aphrodite, guess what? They put the Virgin Mary. They put Mary. That's why you see these images to this day. When you deal with the Babylonians and all those, they was tearing down, destroying Israel's place of worship. But anyway, that's a whole nother discussion. But during the Middle Ages, Saint Valentine was much invoked in love charms and potions, since he was a sketchily Christianized version of such love gods as Eros, Cupid, Priapus, or Pan. All right, so let's deal with the etymology of charms. Incantation, magic charms. You see his spell, incantation, song, magic spell, incantation, song. You see the word canary, to sing. That's why you hear so many of what? These songs, right? They have so many sexual tones to them to seduce people. Those songs are actually being played in a form of what? A charm. To recite or cast a magic spell, to enchant, to fill, in other words, someone with desire. And there's a lot of charms that's going on today. We dealt with some of this when we start looking at the history of the spell casting that's done over not just our people, but other people that's just wanting to know the truth. So let's deal with the Hebrew definition of charm, right? Chabar, it says here, to join, specifically, in other words, by means of spells, to fascinate. So again, this is a key quote from that article. He was a sketchily Christianized version of such love gods, right, deities as Eros, Cupid, Priapus, or Pan. And what you see in this image, this is an image of Pan. This is where you get Peter Pan, right? Deals with bestiality and all kinds of other stuff. This is the actual image of Pan. So who is Eros, right? So we see all kinds of perversions is attached to this fable. So this is the image that you would see of Eros, right? This is what you would see, the baby with wings and have his arrow, and that arrow represents sending out love charms, trying to get people what? Love struck. So bear with me 1 second. Let me respond to this. All right. Just wanted to respond to it. Right. Got a message I had to respond to. So who is Eros? Who is Eros? Who is Eros? All right. Who is Eros? Let's deal with some of these people, or should I say demonic deities of these belief systems. Eros, notice what it says. Eros, bisexual Greek deity of erotic love. Bisexual deity of erotic love. So this right here tells you, just this alone tells you that Valentine's Day promotes bisexuality, right? Identical with Hindu Kama. Orphic said Eros was the first god to emerge, or deity to emerge from the womb of the primal creatress, Mother Night. Right? We can also tie Mother Night with Christmas Eve. Right? Anyway, Mother Night, of whom even Zeus stands in awe. Now we're dealing with Greek mythology, right? Plato said Eros was the oldest of deities, the most worthy of honor, the one who gave souls strength to ascend to heaven after death. In short, Eros was a kind of savior. So this bisexual character was a kind of savior before cults of asceticism, asceticism began to replace the older worship of sexuality as a primary life force. So you see that this is a type of Messiah, a type of savior, a bisexual deity, perversions. So Eros was a bisexual Greek deity of erotic love. So erotic means to sexually arouse. So there's no coincidence that when you think of Valentine's Day, many people want to do what? Right? They want to go here. They want to get into their flesh, right? So who is Cupid? Because Cupid is interchangeable with Eros. Who is Cupid? Right? Roman name for the god of erotic love, Greek Eros, right? So Romans equivalent to Eros, right? Hindu Kama. Cupid was the son of Venus, Mercury, in other words, Aphrodite and Hermes. And this is where you get the term a hermaphrodite. In other words, bisexual, signifying what? Sexual union. We're getting into phallic worship here. When you understand the hexagram, that is a symbol of what? Sexual union. That is a symbol of what's her name? Kali, the Kali dance of death. That's a whole nother discussion. So in Christian usage, the ancient significance of sexual desire was confused with desire for money. Hence the modern cupidity, which was used to mean lust, but now means greed. In the same way, the Latin caritas was altered from sensual or sexual giving. All right. So as we go on here, we see that Cupid is shown as what? A winged baby, right? But that's not the real image of Cupid, right? We see the baby with wings and wearing a pamper and a bow and arrow. Actually, as you see here, but ancient talismans of Cupid were not babies. They were winged phalli. In other words, they were winged male reproductive organs of bronze, ivory, or wood, which gave rise to an Italian slang, the term for male reproductive organs. In other words, uccello, little bird. So Cupid was not this baby that you see here. It was actually a man's reproductive organ with wings on it. All right. So phallic worship. That's what, when we deal with Valentine's Day, we're dealing with phallic worship. Phallic worship. All right. So Cupid's arrow represents the spell or charm of lovesick. Let me say it again. That arrow that Cupid shoots, right? That's all. I'm not going to go into the details of fully explaining that because it's graphic. But anyway, Cupid's arrow represents the spell or charm, lovesick. Excuse me. So let's go to the Oxford Dictionary definition of lovesick. What is lovesick? Right? I remember Gangstar had a song called Lovesick, right? And I think it was another R&B group that had the song Lovesick. Can't remember. I think they were called Groove Theory or whatever. They had a hit, I believe, called Lovesick as well. But what is lovesick? It says in love or missing the person one love, right? Or missing the person one loves so much that one is unable to act normally. In other words, you are so caught up in a person that you begin to get outside of your normal behavior. You start behaving abnormally. Lovesick. In other words, missing a person one loves so much that one is unable to function normally. That's what it means. So let me give you an example of lovesick within the scriptures, right? Let me give you an example of lovesick in the scriptures. Let's go to 2 Samuel chapter 13, verse 1 and 2. This is what I teach. And I believe that if the church taught this correctly, if they actually went into the scriptures and began to really teach what's in the scriptures, every situation you could think of is inside the scriptures. So let's deal with lovesick. And unfortunately, we got a lot of people within the church that refer to them as being evangelists or whatever they want to call themselves. Guess what? They are lovesick. They are obsessed with us. They are so obsessed with us obsessed that they're not even behaving or functioning normally. We're all they talk about. They don't have nothing else to talk about. That tells you that there's a mental disconnect with certain individuals. Lovesick. 2 Samuel chapter 13, verse 1 and 2. Let's go there now. And it came to pass after this that Absalom, the son of David, had a fair sister whose name was Tamar. And Ammon, the son of David, loved her. And Ammon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin. And Ammon thought it hard for him to do anything to her. Oh, he was so obsessed with his own sister. He was thinking of every kind of way that he can what? Be with his sister. He can sleep with his sister. Say he was so vexed that he fell sick. In other words, he wasn't even functioning normal because she was a virgin. She was a virgin, family. No, it wasn't just saying she was. Doesn't mean she was a young girl like many try to twist the definitions around and try to use that to try to throw shade on the Messiah being a virgin, born of a virgin. They try to say, oh, Mary was just a young girl. They have no clue. They have no clue about the ancient text and what how important it was to what preserve yourself, all right, for marriage. So Ammon was so vexed that he fell sick for his sister Tamar, for she was a virgin, and Ammon thought it hard for him to do anything to her. So again, Ammon was so vexed that he fell sick. In other words, lovesick for his sister. So Tamar or Thamar was his half sister, but was the full sister of Absalom, who had been born to David, David's wife, Ma'akah, the daughter of Talmai, who was the king of Geshur. So let's deal with the Hebrew definition of vexed, right? Yatsar or yatzazar. It means to press. An example, be narrow, be in distress. So he couldn't think about anything. He was narrow-minded. That's all he thought about was ways that he can what? Have his way with his sister, being distressed, as you see here. Bind, right? But here's a kicker, besieged. So he was in bondage. He was in bondage to this obsession. He was obsessed with his sister. Obsessed. So here's the Hebrew definition of the word sick, right? Kala, it says to be rubbed or worn, to be weak, afflicted, to grieve, make sick, disease, be disease, put to pain. There's a lot of sick people that call themselves teaching out of this holy word. There's a lot of sick people that hide behind the word to mask their sickness. They are afflicted. They are grieved. They are also operating in the spirit of the accuser of the brethren. They are diseased. They are put to pain. As you see here, be weak, become weak, be wounded. A lot of wounded people, right? Hurt, family. It's okay to be hurt. We all had to deal with hurt at one point in our life. But there comes a point in time you have to heal. Hurt, but heal, family. Hurt Israel, but heal Israel. We got to heal. We can't stay in that hurt place. We have to heal Israel. There's a lot of people within the church that needs healing, right? The old church would say, need Jesus. They need to go up on that altar and tarry. Just pray. Pray until something happens. Right? Pray until something happens. All right? So, nevertheless, become weak, wounded, be wounded. So Ammon became lovesick over his sister Tamar. So Ammon, he became Yatsar or Yatazar, in other words, narrow-minded and besieged. He was in a siege. He was bound. He had a stronghold on him, which caused him to become diseased, an obsession for his sister. He was so obsessed. Kal Wath. In other words, this is ongoing. Wath, that's the feminine plural, right? So he was diseased in his obsession for his sister. So Ammon lusted so much after Tamar that he became ill, in other words, lovesick, because he could not figure out a way to have her sexually. He was lovesick. He was when I deal with Samson, right? Samson, he was I like to use the word infatuation. Infatuation means foolish passion. He had a foolish passion for Philistine women, right? His first wife, his wife, right? His parents warned him about his lustful spirit and warned him to stay what? Marry an Israelite woman. Understand, Samson was not some teenager. He was a grown man. He was a judge. So he wasn't like some little kid that we see on, like they portraying him like he was like a young teenager, like he was 21 years old. You couldn't be 21 and be a judge of Israel. So, but nevertheless, he had an infatuation for Philistine women. The first wife, the wife that he had, she betrayed him, a secret, right? She was a Philistine. The second woman you see him highlighted in the text, she was what? A prostitute. And then we have Delilah. Okay. So he was infatuated. He had a foolish passion for Philistine women. But Ammon lusted so much after Tamar that he became ill because he could not figure out a way to have her sexually. He was trying all kinds of ways. So the question is, family, why was he so infatuated with her? Why was he so infatuated with her? Why was he so love struck over his own sister? Why? Here's why. Because Tamar or Thamar was faithful, Ammon, to Yahweh, obeying his commandments, living a pure, righteous life. Do you know, come on, there's a lot of brothers that go up in the church with the only purpose, the sole purpose, to try to find them a wife. Hopefully, hoping that they can find a virgin up inside the church. Man, the church is off the chain right now, right? The church gone wild. I'm about to continue to post videos about the church going wild, right? So, but come on, man. A lot of guys say, you know what? They go to church to try to do just what we see, Ammon do, right? Go up in the church looking for a woman in the church, right? Because they know their faithfulness to the Most High. They're faithful. They committed. And guess what? They love strong. They know this. So they purposely go into the church to prey on women. And we see that not just in the church, we see this in this truth per se. So because Tamar was faithful to Yahweh, obeying his commandments and living a pure, righteous life, that's why he was so obsessed with her. So Ammon, his cravings for Tamar was despicable. It was reprehensible. So Ammon's name, this is what's interesting about Ammon's name, right? Because if you look at his name, you can understand what his name actually means. Because if we take one of the M's out, it'll say Ammon. So it tells you it comes from the Hebrew word Ammon. Is the primitive root word for here. And Ammon means faithful, trust, consistency, right? These are some of the definitions that comes with the territory of the word Ammon. But let me confirm this with you, right? His name means faithful, right? It means a son of David, but the key is faithful. Ammon, or Ammon, faithful, right? That's what it means. So I'm known, right? So that's the colon vowel. So I'm just saying this from showing you how to pronounce this from Israeli language. I'm known, and over here is known, right? That's just how you pronounce it. But anyway, so faithful, son of David. So his name means faithful. But look at what this reference that tells where to tell us to go, to tell us where this word come from, the roots, the primitive roots. So if we go to the primitive roots, this is what it's going to tell you what it means. Ammon, it means to build up, firm, faithful, trust, believe, to be permanent, right? That's the name of his name. Build up, faithful, to trust, believe, be permanent, to go to the right hand. So in this text, guess what? He was built up in his lust. He was firm and faithful to his lust. He trusted in his lust. He believed in his lust. He was permanent in his lust. He also, because Ammon means to go to the right hand. See, family, many of our brothers and sisters are built up, but what are they built up in? They try to mask and make it seem like they built up and trying to do the work of the Most High, right? When I say Most High, I'm not just dealing within the church, right? Not just when I say Most High, I'm not just dealing with this awakening. There's a lot of brothers and sisters that's pretending to be built up in the Most High, to be built up in his Son, to be built up in the Holy Spirit, when actually they're operating in a spirit of perversion. Spirit of perversion is not just a sexual spirit. All right. So they build up, up in perversions. In other words, want to profane everything. You guys are witnessing this stuff right now. So to build up, right? So he was permanent. So many of them are built up in the foul spirit. They're built up and firm in their delusion and their anger and their wickedness. They trust and believe in their wickedness, their lies, and they're permanent there. In other words, they've been turned over to a reprobate mind, turned over to their lust, right? But here's the kicker: to go to the right hand. So just this word alone tells you that Israel understood the importance of going to the right hand. This is where you have to understand the high priest. This is where you have to understand the Day of Atonement. Israel always knew the importance of how to go to the right hand. Now we know from the sense of being the good sense of here, we know the Messiah, right, sits at the right hand of the Father. Stephen confirmed that even in his dream that he had, or not dream, but his vision that he had. But there's other places we can confirm that. Revelation, we could confirm that. But it says to go to the right hand, right? So who was Ammon's right hand man? Because Ammon had a right hand man. Ammon had a right hand man to carry out his perversions. So who was Ammon's right hand man? See, these wicked people that are lovesick, they have a right hand man. They have an accomplice that helped them carry out their foolishness. So who was Ammon's right hand? The evil scheme or charm suggested by a friend and cousin, Jonadab. So Jonadab was Ammon's right hand man. He was also despicable and reprehensible. But let's go to verse 11 through 5 in the same text. And when she had brought them unto him to eat, right? So the scheme was that he wasn't feeling well, and that his sister, came to bring him something to eat. That was the scheme that he and his right hand put together. They deceived David. They deceived their own father, right? Deceived their own father so that way he can rape his sister. So his right-hand man helped him come up with the plan that he deceived his own father. So, and when she had brought them unto him to eat, he took hold of her. So she's coming there to give him something to eat, And now he's grabbing her, trying to rape her. And he said unto her, come lie with me, my sister. So now he's grabbing on her. Before, right now he's grabbing on her, being physical with her. And she answered, nay, my brother, Yah, do not force me. Saying, nay, my brother, right? Yah, the alap, the ka, the Yah, or the Yad, right? Leadership, teacher, authority. And he's abusing his leadership, being a leader, being a son of the king. He's abusing his authority. He has no boundary. He has no line. He's crossing the line because the ka means wall. It means divide. Now he's crossing a line. And the Yah, right? Or in the Hebrew, Yad, it means redemption. He's getting to a point of no return, that he cannot be redeemed. Now he's being turned over to his lust. So nay, my brothers, she said, nay, my brother, Akyah, or Akyah, do not force me, for no such thing ought to be done in Israel. She's saying, like, look, this thing is not supposed to be done in Israel. You're not supposed to deal with incest, be involved in incest. And then you're talking about raping your own sister. Do not do this folly. She said, she's pleading with him, right? And whither shall I cause my shame to go? And as for thee, thou shalt be as one of the fools in Israel. She's saying she'll be shamed. She won't be able to go anywhere to get away from this shame. Even when she's by herself, she'll be filled with shame. She'll be tainted like Dinah when she was raped. And as for thee, thou shalt be as one of the fools in Israel. She said, you'll be an embarrassment in Israel. You'll be viewed as being effeminate in Israel, because it's a weak thing that you're doing, trying to rape your own sister, for raping your own sister. Now, therefore, I pray thee, speak unto the king, for he will not withhold me from thee. See, she's trying to find a way out of this. See, she's telling him, trying to make him think clearly. David would not have turned him over to his brother or his son. David would have saw the scheme, because David would have figured it out. But she was trying to talk sense to him, like, hey, go through the right process. So if you think that you want me so bad, hey, trying to circumvent this situation, trying to ease and trying to stop this situation. She's telling him, hey, go to the king, ask him, do it the right way, right? That's part of the heritage. If someone wants to have a wife, you go to the father. She said, do it the right way. Go to father. She's trying any and everything to talk sense to him, to stop him from doing this heinous crime. Howbeit, he would not hearken unto her voice. He would not listen with intelligence. Remember, hearken, Shema. He would not listen to her voice. But being stronger than she, he overpowered her. Being stronger, he forced her and lay with her, right? If you want to get the laws of rape, that's Deuteronomy chapter 22. Then Ammon hated. Notice how he flipped. He was so in love with her. Then once he got what he wanted, once he raped her, now it's said that he flipped it here. He went from being so lovesick over her. Now he hated her. It says exceedingly, Shana or Shana'ah. He hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred wherewith he hated her was greater than the love wherewith he had loved her. So now he went from one extreme to the other. He went from being so lovesick, behaving strangely, right, to now he went to the exact opposite, to hating her. To hating her. To hating her. Come on, we see this all the time within our community. We see this all the time. This is why one of the beefs I have with the church, I grew up in the Baptist church. So many girls got taken advantage from some of these grown men, these deacons and all of that. They got them pregnant, or one of the pastor's sons, or the deacon's son, or the minister's son that got one of these young girls pregnant. And so they have the young girl come up in front of the church knowing that she's pregnant. And now she has to repent and rededicate her life to the church in front of everyone. But they don't touch the guys. They don't touch that crooked deacon. They don't touch that crooked deacon's son. They don't touch that, go at that musician whose his whole purpose is to seduce the women and men within the church. They don't go after them. They go after the girl. The girl have to come up and now be embarrassed. And every time I've seen that happen, you don't see the girl again. The girl completely leave the church. A lot of predators up in the church. A lot of predators outside the church. Let's give it clarity, even among this awakening. So then Ammon hated her exceedingly, so that the hatred wherewith he hated her was greater than the love wherewith he had loved her. And Ammon said unto her, Arise, be gone. Arise, be gone. So the incest committed by the crown prince Ammon was abominable, was perverted. It was a great shame. It led him to rape his sister. Tamar immediately shouted out, no, or don't, several times. And in this struggle to resist his lustful advances, she made 4 appeals to him. Here's the 4 appeals. She reminded him that rape was a crime and that such a thing should not be done in Israel. She appealed with a conscious, emphasizing that rape was a wicked evil. She begged him to think about their reputations. She would be disgraced and his reputation would be ruined, for the people would look upon him as a wicked fool. She appealed to him to control his urges and ask permission to marry her if he was so burning with this lust, if he was so lovesick. But he didn't listen. So he got what he wanted and he flipped the script on her. Come on, how many of our women having to deal with men flip the script on them? Hate. Let's see what the Hebrew definition of hate is. To hate, enemy, foe. Hate of persons, nations, the Most High, but hate now his own sister. Now he view her as an enemy, foe. See, family, there's a lot of people that's operating in this spirit of hate. There's a lot of people that's trying to say, oh yeah, I love my people, but then guess what? Operating in that spirit of lovesick. And now looking at us with hate. We're the enemy. We're the foe. When actually they're the enemy. They're the foe because of the spirit that's on them. I could give you other examples in the scriptures, but this one touches me, man. I got daughters, man. I'm sorry, man. I'm taking the life if somebody harm my daughters. Shana. Now, the reason why I say Shana, because in ancient Hebrew, there's no the shan, which in this letter here, with that dot over to the left, it'll be pronounced seen. If it was to the right, it'll be sheen. You don't have to deal with that in ancient Hebrew. But anyway, she became an enemy, a foe to him. In other words, he put the blame on her. He put the blame on her. He put the blame on her. Come on now. You know these abusers out here. Yeah, I wouldn't have to behave this way. I want to apologize to you for putting my hands on you. But if you wouldn't have done this. See, there's a lot of abusers among the body of the Most High in the church and outside the church. There's a lot of abusers, verbal abusers. Aren't we witnessing that right now? A lot of verbal abusers don't have nothing better to do with their time than to what? Verbally abuse, verbally assault the people that are trying to do the work, that are minding our own business. These are perverts. So this is what we see happening here. He now trying to what? Flip the script, put the blame on her. That's what an abuser does. Man, there's a lot of women being abused up in the church. Man, I'm going to start posting some of these videos of what many of these church people, these men are doing to their wives. Come on, I had to counsel a number of pastors, a number of elders, a number of ministers who were abusing their wives. It was times I had to get up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, going over to somebody's house who's supposed to be a leader and snatching that man and pulling him outside that house. Believe it or not, a lot of these guys that call themselves attacking our community, trying to throw shade on us, many of them are abusers, beat up on their wife. They're abusers. And that's what you see, abusive behavior. I could bring all of that out, but you know what? No, I'm not going there. That's their business. But it's a lot of them that's abusers. There's a lot of them that are stalkers. There's a lot of them are dealing with all kinds of sexual issues with their sexuality. It's all kinds of issues within the church. And guess what? It's the same within this awakening. It's a lot of them that are dealing with all kinds of things that they will not address, abusing the women. Man, I have to deal with this even within this community. It's a number of women that I had to do intervention for them, reconnecting some back with their family that was deceived by some of these snakes out here who's circumventing the leader of that house, the father or that uncle, whoever may be the authoritative figure of that house, creeping into these houses, seducing these women, and now beating on them and doing all kinds of stuff, forcing them into polygamy, all kinds of stuff. Family, that's why I don't have time for a lot of this chit chatter. I don't have time for none of these so-called internet tough guys who talk the talk but can't walk the walk. How many of these guys done ran up into somebody's house to break up some stuff? I was a young minister calling the pastors like, hey, I got a phone call that such and such is over there beating up on his wife. You know what the pastor said? Can you go handle that? I'm a young minister. Not even the elders wanted to go over to handle that. I went. A number of times I put my life on the line, doing the work of an evangelist. Anyway, man, these people don't know what ministry is. Anybody can sit behind a podium. Anyone can sit behind a pulpit. Anyone can sit behind a camera. But what ministry are you doing? Are women getting taken advantage of? Children getting taken advantage of? The very thing people that the Most High commanded Israel to take care of. The widows, the orphans. We need to wake up, man. That's why I don't have time for the chit chat. That's why I don't have time for the nonsense. Man, the Most High is going to come back and give an account. He's going to go back over all the words. We got to give account for every word, every idle word that we've put out in the atmosphere. Right now, the church has gotten cocky. Right now, some of the people, even within Israel, gotten cocky and forgot one rule of thumb. Right? When you are a minister, the first message, whatever message you write is supposed to minister to you first. Any message you give, the first person that ministers is to you. If you ever put a message together with the purpose of witnessing to the people, trying to correct the people, you lost your way, because every message you give is supposed to start with ministering to you. So nevertheless, once he had committed this reprehensible evil, his emotions immediately turned from attraction to hate. Now, Ammon saw his sister as his enemy. As his enemy. Now, I mentioned the word cupidity, right? Let's see what cupidity means. It says eager, desire to possess something. Passionate desire, lust, ambition, to desire. Family, you'd be surprised some of the triggers that's on many of these people, starting with the men. Man, many of these men cannot handle rejection. See, when you start ignoring them, right? That's what we see right now. A lot of the attacks on our community is when you decide not to engage and be quiet. And so they began to act in this very lovesick mindset, right? They began to exhibit these type of behaviors because what? Rejection. Man, a lot of people, man, rejection is a hard thing to deal with, right? So cupidity, eager desire to possess something, passionate desire, lust, ambition, to desire, right? To boil over, desire. Okay, so cupidity again means passionate desire. It means lust. So Ammon allowed his lovesick, called cupidity, in other words, a passionate desire and lust, lead him to stupidity. Right? You hit it right on the nail, Jay. You hit it right on the nail, my brother Jay. Sounds like stupidity. That's what it is. Stupidity. Cupidity, stupidity. So Ammon allowed his lovesick, called cupidity, in other words, compassion or passionate desire and lust, lead him to stupidity. Wrapping this up. Let's deal with Aphrodite real quick. Right? How influential is this Roman goddess as we wrap this up? Greek god of love. She was like a virgin mother crone. In other words, the Trinity. See, that's the thing that they won't talk about, the Trinity. You know, we could talk about the Trinity, right? When you start dealing with the Etruscans and all of that. Kali, she was a virgin mother crone. That is the triple goddess. This is the Capitoline triad. The Trinity. The church didn't have a monopoly on the Trinity. They took it from other cultures to try to force this Father, Son, and Holy Spirit to be what? Part of this triune triple goddess, or triple god. Really, it's the triple goddess is where it originates from. Right? She was once indistinguishable from the fates, right? Because when you deal with fates, you also deal with Fortuna. Her old name was Moira, and she was said to be older than time. All right, not getting into all of this. So it goes on to say she was not only Greek, she was the Dia Syria, also known as Asherah, Astarte, the goddess of the oldest continuously occupied temple in the world. She was the ancestral mother of the Romans, for she gave birth to the founding fathers, Aeneas. Right, this is dealing with Greek mythology. Right, under the name of Venus, she was the mother of Veneti, whose capital city became Venice, called the Queen of the Sea. So that's what Venice is. Venice, when you hear about Venice, or that name Venice, it means Queen of the Sea, after this goddess herself. So one of Aphrodite's major centers of worship was the city of Paphos on Cyprus. Right? And so the island name for its copper mines. Thus, she was called the Cyprian or Paphian, or the Paphian, and her sacred metal was copper. She was also called Marie, or Mari, the sea. The Egyptians referred to her island as Ai-Mari. So during the Christian era, notice this pattern, Aphrodite's temple on Cyprus was converted into a sanctuary for the Virgin Mary. Remember what I said? This is a pattern when we start dealing with Christianity, when we start dealing with Catholicism. Instead of tearing down the idols, they start trying to change it into their liking. They'll put, instead of Aphrodite, they put the Virgin Mary. So I encourage you guys, look up the original image of Aphrodite. Look up the original image of Dinah, right? Look up the original images of them. It'll surprise you. But anyway, so Aphrodite's temple on Cyprus was converted into a sanctuary, of the Virgin Mary. And so another name of the goddess, but in this sanctuary, the Virgin Mary is hailed. So they took one of Aphrodite's temples and made it into a place called basically for the worship of the Virgin Mary. All right, let's wrap this up here. All right, this is another key I want to highlight here, right here. The calendar still keeps the name of Aphrodite on the month dedicated to her, April. April is the month that's dedicated to Aphrodite. Her, in other words, April was also called Aprillis, right? The ancient calendar. All right, so not going to continue on all that. Going to get ready to wrap this up. I had more. I think I took some of that out, but anyway, let's wrap this up. So let's address one last thing. And some of you guys probably remember this. I had to address this last year. So the ritual worship of the dancing heart. So what is the significance of the heart? Because you see the heart in the background. You see when you're dealing with Cupid, you're dealing with what? The heart, right? The arrow through the heart. What is the origins of the Sacred Heart? Let me share a little additional information with you. You guys know that image. You guys seen this image. Whether you want to say this is Caesar Borgia or Serapis or the image of Ptolemy. But notice that heart in the center. Notice that heart, right? Notice that heart. What is that? What's the origins of that? Well, let's break it down. The heart, Ab, was the Egyptian word for heart soul. Most important of the 7 souls bestowed by the 7 birth goddesses, Hathors. Now, we're still dealing with Fables, right? You see, Fables is all through Catholicism, all through Christianity, all through Fables, paganism. The Ab was the soul that would be weighed in the balances of Mayat after death in her underground hall of judgment. Now we get into, if we want to call it Egyptology or the Kemetic or Khammatic, beliefs. So her underground hall of judgment to see if it was too heavy with sins to balance her feather of truth. The Ab was more important because it was the central blood soul and emanating from the essence of the mother. The maxim that a pregnant woman carries her child under her heart began with the Egyptians, who believed menstrual blood that made the child's life descended from the mother's heart to her. In other words, to her womb. The maternal heart then was the source of the child's life, which was why a mother called her child heart's blood. And so the Book of the Dead addressed prayers to my heart of my mother, my heart of transformation. And I could go in on that Catholic stuff, even just what I'm reading to you right now, meaning the source of rebirth. The Egyptian hieroglyphic sign Ab was a dancing figure. As a verb, it meant to dance. This referred to the mystic dance of life going on inside the body of the heart. The same mystic symbol in India was the dance of Shiva, who was supposed to dwell at the beating heart of the cosmos within the world body. So that beating heart, or that sacred heart, comes from the dancing heart, which is from the Egyptians. So we see all kinds of images, fables, right? Images, right? Through syncretism. That's how a lot of this is done, through syncretism. Not going to get into that tonight, but still want to show you exactly what this is all about, what this fable is all about. So we're going to stop right here, family. I appreciate you guys for taking the time out of your schedule to watch this presentation. And I hope and pray that this help blesses you. And I encourage you guys to really share it. Share the video. Share it to your YouTube channel. Share it on your Facebook page. start keeping this some of these lessons on your pages, right? So today we're dealing with, again, we dealt with the fable, the ritual of Valentine. Soon we're going to deal with Lent. We're going to deal with the fable of Ash Wednesday. We're going to deal with the fables of St. Patrick's Day. We got a lot to deal with in this season. So family, I really appreciate you guys for tuning in tonight. Trying not to go too geek mode on this, but when we start dealing with not just geek mode, but passion, I'm really passionate when it comes to protecting our women and children, protecting those that can't defend themselves, protecting those that are vulnerable, protecting the babes. I have a desire, I have a passion about that. And that's why I want to give you an example of what lovesick is, and even what this this fable, this ritual holiday, or whatever day you want to call it, it really causes so many problems. It promotes so many things. It promotes transvestism. It promotes bisexual. It promotes perversions. It promotes, I could go even further with that. There's other things I can share with this, even talking about eating the heart, say other satanic rituals. So I kept it simple just so that way I wouldn't prolong the lesson. So family, I really appreciate you guys. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and call it a wrap. My information, if you want to contact me offline, feel free to email me at wearewokenow@gmail.com. If you guys are interested in doing the offline Bible study, because I cannot teach everything online. And also start subscribing to the Patreon page. I'm going to start uploading videos directly to there. So that way you'll have videos and teachings that's strictly for that platform. And so some of this stuff that you see here, I'm going to start transitioning it over there because of all the stuff, the problems that I'm having with YouTube this past year. Last year, I was shut down for 9 months out of last year. And the Most High still allowed the channel to triple, go from just under 5,000 subscribers to being now we're just under 15,000 subscribers. So YouTube is doing all kinds of things to really hinder this channel. But with that being said, family, really appreciate you guys. Feel free to contact me if you're interested in the Bible study. Also, I will be posting the Hebrew lessons over to there, right, to the Patreon page. Next week, we'll do part 2 of just some Hebrew basics, right? Restoring of the pure language, and then we'll do lesson 1 over here, and then the additional lessons, the remaining of the lessons 9 through 10, I will have it over at the Patreon page. All right, so appreciate you guys. So with that being said, I want to just give you an encouraging word, as Moses was instructed by the Most High to give the children of Israel as they were dealing with what seemed to be an obstacle in front of them, a dead end, right? The Egyptians coming up from behind. In other words, their past trying to catch up with them, and what their future looks bleak. Their future looks like it's a dead end, right? So the Most High told Moses to say these words to the people in Exodus chapter 13 and 14. He said, "Fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians, this stronghold, this foolishness, you won't have to ever deal with it again. It will not have any influence. It will not have any power over you again. The Most High will fight for you." But here's the kicker, family. You have to hold your peace. You have to what? Be quiet. The Hebrew word there is karash. It means be quiet. With that being said, can't go back, can't stay here. Keep moving forward. Shalom.